Hi, everybody. This is Lyle from Landscape Lies by Landscape Lyle, and I'm going to give a short synopsis about what we're going to go over today. This is going to be a real podcast with an expert in insurance claims, and especially since all the fires in Southern California, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to kind of spread the word and help. And today our guest is Richie Walker, who's been a licensed insurance broker for at least the last 23 years. He's third generation. He has extreme knowledge and experience and a wide breadth of knowledge about insurance and coverages and all the things that go wrong with that. And so without much ado, I should say, hi, Richie.
Hey, Lyle, thanks for having me. I'm pretty excited that you reached out and looking forward to talking to you a bit.
Well, that's good. You know, it's always nice to have a network of people you can rely upon. And I have been able to rely on you and your father's company for many, many years. And especially in the industries that we're in, where con and contractors seem to go together and not everybody is reliable as they should be. To have people you can rely upon is worth its weight in gold. So with that in mind, we have a few questions and answers here that are going to help all you folks that were affected by the fires to kind of help navigate. And this is a three-part series. We're going to start with the insurance claims and that kind of process because, well, that's where you're going to start. You're going to start with the insurance claims, then you're going to move on to either construction or design, and especially with all the toxic waste that was involved in all of the fires. We're also going to do a segment on soil remediation, and I have an expert for that. And plus, I do have some experience in landscaping about rehabilitating and making soil good again, because ultimately that's going to be required to make things go. So why don't we go ahead and start answering some questions? What do you think?
Let's do it.
Okay. So we have a list of things here we're going to go over. Hopefully we don't miss anything. So, Richie, let's start with this. Are there different types of reconstruction or loss after a fire?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now we're talking a lot about some pretty catastrophic fires. So, these rebuilds from the Palisades and Eaton fire are going to be comprehensive. But fires may be small or large, and there are about 5 different types of construction that you may be going through after a loss, whether that's basic restoration, whether that's just personal property cleanup. This could be structural, where beams and trusses are taken out and need to be replaced. Interior reconstruction for flooring, cabinetry, ceiling, and exterior reconstruction for your home, your paint, your siding, your roof, your doors, windows. All these can be types of construction that you go through.
Like most things, every situation is a little different. It could be a very simple repair, water damage, because there is a lot of water that comes out of those fire hoses, all the way to complete reconstruction where there was nothing left but ash. So that's good to know. Richie, something else to consider. What are the top considerations or actions that a client or a lossee, as it's called in the insurance business, what are the top considerations or actions that you should take after a loss?
Yeah, the first action is to take care of yourself. Make sure that you're safe. Get out of the property. And check in with your family, check in with your loved ones. Make sure that everyone knows you're okay. These events can be traumatizing for more than just the person that has had a loss. So do that. Hopefully you have some sort of evacuation or emergency plan in place so that you know what to take when you're evacuating. Important documents, family photos. You don't want to have to go through replacing your social and your credit cards and your bank statements. That should be one of the priorities of things to take with you. You will want to check in with your insurance. Let them know that you think you have a loss. You may not know if your house was burned down or not. Many of the people in the recent wildfires took them days to know if their home was still standing. So get the word out, put the insurance agent and company on notice so that they can prepare for next steps. You're going to organize your possessions and know what you have, and after it's a safe time to get back, then you can start the assessment process. Excuse me.
Very nice. I remember a service that your father used to tout, and it was a video inventory of everything you owned. And boy, would that come in handy. And, unfortunately, we always think of those things after the fact. Being prepared is, and like the Boy Scouts, be prepared.
100%.
Because you just never know. Things happen in a flash of an eye. I mean, think about when the fires when they started happening. We had probably a half an hour's notice, and there was 100,000 acres that were on fire. The winds were 80 miles an hour, something we have never really seen. They really went. It was amazing how fast things went. And on top of that, it burned cities. It didn't just burn the hills. It really spread. It was a firestorm, on the scale of this great San Francisco or the great Chicago fires. It's a modern day version, and I think it's a total of 12,000 structures burnt to the ground, and that doesn't include all the other ones that were just damaged. So, penny, what is that? As they go, penny wise and pound foolish. So,
yes, absolutely.
I know how that can go sometimes.
It's a good reminder. It's a good reminder for those that weren't affected. Things
now.
are getting even more tenuous.
Sure.
With the climate, we're seeing bigger losses.
Correct.
Have an emergency plan. Do a home inventory, and don't keep it at home.
Right,
send it to your Gmail at least.
Yeah, you should store it in several different places because you never know what might go south. I remember seeing a schedule for all the insurance companies and what they were requiring as far as documentation. Some of them are very liberal, and some of them are very strict. So depending on who your insurance is with, will really determine your financial reimbursement, and that can be it can take a long time.
We have a bit of a saying in the insurance industry, and it's document.
There we
And
go.
it's for ourselves, and it's also for our clients. The more you have, the better, especially in a loss.
Absolutely. Why? Absolutely. Especially with all the fraud that's involved, and I'm sure the insurance companies are always on their toes, making sure they're not totally taking advantage of. Unfortunately, that can work against legitimate clients because they're forced to do things they may not normally have to do because of the fear of fraud, and that's always a part of the underbelly of all things. How long should it take the evaluation process to be accomplished, such as, a preliminary amount of damage? How do we get started with the bidding process? And especially because if your house is burnt to the ground, you're going to need a place to live. And with the limited amount of rental properties that are already available, I imagine the quicker it's done, the better it is for everybody concerned.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And really that's the first step of the assessment is emergency services and securing the property, getting a place to stay. There are a couple of segments of the insurance contract which can be accessed immediately. And if the home is a total loss, the insurance company has to pay you a pretty good sized portion of your loss of use and additional living expenses. That's the coverage line that pays for you to stay somewhere while your home is being rebuilt. It also pays for your increase in costs, the food, because you'll be eating out all the time. You don't have your kitchen anymore to make your dinners, on the budget. And so that's the first step, and that should be done immediately. From there, there'll be a damage assessment. The adjuster will come out as soon as they're allowed to access the property, that is. And then they'll start to work, and whether that is just a cleanup, soot removal, or we're talking about getting into the nitty gritty of major construction.
And that's the meat of the matter. Just for our edification, because there are a lot of people that could be underinsured, or maybe just not interested in rebuilding. Even though there's community, they could have been there for a long, long time. Maybe they had plans to move away at some point, and it's kind of put the kibosh on a lot of that, and they're just ready to move away. I know there's a lot of people, especially in the Palisades area, that have enough financial capability. They can write a check for everything and wait for settlement. They could also just sell and move away to wherever they'd like to go, East Coast, West Coast, foreign countries, until they could wait everything else out. But the significant portion of people who may have to walk away, what is the ability for them to abandon reconstruction, and how would they be compensated by the insurance company should they choose not to rebuild? What would happen then?
Yeah, it's a good question. So typically, I cannot answer for all insurance companies because the contracts can be different. But typically, if you're choosing to take a settlement offer from the insurance company as opposed to rebuilding on a total loss, what happens is your policy will go from what is called a replacement cost policy, where everything is paid what it takes to pay for those items today, along with extensions of that liability that may go over and beyond how much coverage you actually hold on your policy. When you take a settlement offer, the policy changes to what we call actual cash value, which is really just factoring in depreciation. So the number that you see, coverage A dwelling on your homeowner's policy, that will be the absolute most that you can get. They'll evaluate what you have, and they will factor in depreciation for that check that you'll receive.
Interesting, because I know that construction costs have skyrocketed ever since the lockdowns and the increase in fuel costs and everything else that has just caused everything to become a lot more expensive. And I understand that the average square foot price for construction is $1,000 a square foot now. You know, for a 1,000 square foot house, that's $1 million. When was the last time? Well, I shouldn't say that because this is Southern California. But a 1,000 square foot house for $1 million, that's a lot of dough for a small house. And can you imagine if you had 5,000 square feet?
It's really incredible.
It's insane, is it not? Yeah.
It's really incredible,
and
I'm
that
hearing
causes a lot of
I'm
issues.
hearing some very large numbers.
Especially if you have only $500,000 in coverage, that might be a problem. Let's talk about something else that you may or may not have any expertise on, but what should we look for in a reconstruction expert or a contractor?
Yeah, you want to, you like you said, I won't suggest that the con and contractors are too synonymous, but there are some bad players out there, and you want to do your best to make sure that you're not getting one of them. You want to verify, what certifications they have. Are their licenses, all up to snuff? Are they insured? Can they provide resources of people that they've done work for? How much work they're taking on, could be another thing that you want to take a look at.
As good as a contractor can be, they can always take on too much work. And when they get spread too thin, even your best contractors can come up short. So that's an important consideration. And make sure they're not too busy, because with 12,000 properties to rebuild, there's only so many general contractors and home builders, even in Southern California. And that's one of the problems that you may run into. And that's why evaluation is and payment, quicker payment allows for faster turnover. There's still permitting processes and design time that's going to be taken into consideration. That is another wild card to the ultimate being able to have your house back again. So
yeah, absolutely.
I know that can really take a long time. Should an outside consultant like a construction manager or a public adjuster, should they be employed to help to expedite the project? What do you think?
I think it depends on the situation. I a lot of times, the insurance companies are really trying to act in good faith. I see most claims go well. There are situations where a claim, payment is less than an insured was expecting. And, if there's something there, there's obviously a time where you should get help. There are some positives to getting a third-party adjuster, doing that negotiation for you. The whole, scenario is extremely stressful, I am sure. And, that can alleviate some of the stress. But, with fees of, anywhere from 5 to 20% of your claim payment, is it worth it for you? Is that something that you want to take on? And as we were talking about before, you may not have the choice of bringing in that third party adjuster after a claim payment has already been offered.
Right.
So it's a tough thing to navigate. I think it's great in bad claim scenarios, which good claim scenarios, although no one's ever happy going through a claim, I think they far outweigh the ones that are bad. And in the current situation, the pressures that are being put on the insurers from the government, both local and federal, they're under a magnifying glass. So I expect them to act in good faith and probably be a little bit easier with making sure that everyone's whole as much as they can be.
Some of what I offer, because I do design all the way through construction and maintenance, is I do consult and I do help to protect my clients from the horrors of landscaping and construction because of what I spoke about, the con and contractor, where anybody with a shovel and a truck can claim to be a landscape architect, and anybody can make it look good right away. The proof of the punch is how it looks with time. It should be like a fine wine and develop with time, because there's no value in getting a really nice price and see it fall apart and redoing it several times. And depending upon your level of satisfaction and understanding of construction and various other things, even landscaping construction, most people think are sod and sprinklers. We really do a lot of things at hardscaping and building structures and pools and outside environments and whatnot. Depending on your understanding, sometimes it does pay to have a consultant as a construction manager for two reasons. One, it helps to maybe explain to you what's going on. It may not be apparent. And it also helps to keep the contractor kind of in line so he doesn't take advantage of you at all. But you will pay a percentage, and sometimes it's worthwhile, because when it's all done and said, and I say that all the time, if you don't get what you want, the only thing you'll ever remember is how much you paid for it. And if you get what you want, the first thing you'll forget is how much you paid for it, because you're just enjoying whatever it is, be it a brand new home, be it a brand new garden, be it a brand new environment, whatever it is, because everybody wants to get their money's worth. It's a tremendous investment of resources for anything that's worthwhile. And, I don't care who you are. Even Bill Gates has a certain limit that he's willing to spend on anything. And we're all the same as well.
Sure.
This might have something to do with, kind of plays into what we talked about, but can you be a do-it-yourselfer? And how does that affect the insurance reimbursement? Because here in Southern California, or in California in general, if you're a homeowner, you are legally able to be the general contractor, and you don't need a license. You don't need insurance. You can do all the contracting yourself. And some people might be really good at that. Some people would really make a mess of it. But does that affect how the insurance company might handle the reimbursement based upon someone who's not a true construction professional submitting bills and looking for reimbursement?
Yeah, I think this is just another area where document is what you want to do. You also want to seek approval. You want to be in contact with your insurance company if you decide to work yourself. Where the problems often arise with these moonlighting contractors, as they may be, is some of the steps that should be taken care of during the process, which aren't, and then running into problems down the line with mold or other issues because they weren't properly cleaned and remediated after the original loss. So, yeah, if you have the knowledge and the skill set to do it, and that's something that you want to do. One, approval from the insurance company, keep them on the same page, let them know what's going on. That way, if there's a problem before you get to it, and document absolutely everything that you do.
It'd be good to have upfront, or at least upfront, notice of talking to them beforehand. You don't want to be done with the work, have them say, "Oh, that's very nice, sir, but guess what? You're not eligible for any reimbursement." That may or may not be legal, but that doesn't always dictate corporate policy, and that's what the expensive attorneys start getting involved in. Your average attorney asks between 30 and 40% of the settlement, so and it takes a long time. If you can think about that, how long it would take you to go through the court process. you really want to spend 10 years getting your house rebuilt? I don't think so. I mean, that's a lifetime.
I think it ends up being a little bigger bite than a lot of people, anticipate.
And so, again, this might be more along something that I might handle, but I know that you are, you do have enough of contact. But what's the best way to tell a scam or a phony contractor from someone legitimate?
Yeah.
Do you have any insight on that?
The things that you want to look out for are hard sales tactics, people that are pushy, people that are trying to get you to commit to a bulk payment that just does not seem right. Pay attention to the contract. You want to make sure that all of their information, license, insurance, business address is all included. Look out for blank spaces on your contract. That's always something that won't go well for you. And you're someone that's afraid to give you proof of what they've done or give you resources. You want that for your own peace of mind and to know who you're working with. So you have to have your feelers up, and you got to talk to more than one person so you have some comparison.
Right, and I would suggest that if you have a trusted advisor who has construction experience, or a construction attorney, it would pay to have them review the contract before you sign it. And you're absolutely right. There's a lot of them that are high pressure. They're looking for. In California, you can't ask for too much up front unless it's a special ordered item. However, that doesn't stop people from, they don't know the law of writing checks and getting involved in things they shouldn't. I've seen plenty of contracts that are so vague. Materials aren't called out. Real results are not called out. Benchmarks about when you're going to be paid are not called out. And one of the ways you can protect yourself, especially if, this is for contracting, but it also pays for the client, is get what's called funding control. So what that means is the money is already in the bank, and it's a third party that controls the money. And when you meet a certain benchmark, then you're allowed to write an invoice that will be approved and paid. And it's good for the a contractor because they can make sure that the client has the money to pay for it too. So if you have any kind of questions about the validity or the stability of whoever you're dealing with, there's nothing wrong with that. And it's not that much to actually have that done. But like I said, the advantage is the money is already in the bank waiting to be approved. You have to wait for it to be sent out, and the contractor doesn't have to worry about the client having enough money to pay. That's another good way that you can help to protect yourself. And now let's get down to some more stuff that, the meat of the matter. Will the local building department require code upgrades in the reconstruction process? Because we've heard that the governor of California is waiving environmental review laws and coastal commission review laws, because Pacific Palisades is definitely within the coastal commission, and they are a very difficult group of people to deal with. And of course, just if you've had any experience working with building and safety, trying to build a brand new house, it can be quite a pill, where the book of requests and code upgrades and all these other things never end. And plus, you also have to be, you have a lot of masters. You got building department, you got planning department, you got coastal commission, you got local city. You might have a separate planning commission for every area. You have to be zoned properly, and sometimes they use it as an excuse to change everything because now it's all brand new. So, I mean, that's what I think the great wild card is how the permitting process is really going to go. And I remember from my own policy that there is a clause about permitting and upgrades to code that are covered under insurance. And is that a standard thing for insurance too?
Yeah, it is. It is. So the coverage is called law and ordinance coverage. It's there as an extra amount for you to meet that code upgrade when your house is being rebuilt, even if it's a portion of your house. If your house was built in the 70s and there's a code upgrade in 96, well, you're going to have to meet those code upgrades for you to have clearance. And, the problem is that the standard amount of law and ordinance coverage is 10% of the amount that you have your building insured for. So if you have, $1 million of coverage, it's $100,000. Well, if it's a high cost per square foot in a nice area, it's not going to go as far as you think. I mean,
It might not. Now, is that 100,000 in excess of the rebuild?
It is in addition to your
Perfect.
coverage A.
On
So
top
it's
of it.
nice that it's
Good to know.
there, but what those out there, especially with homes that have a few years behind them, where there's going to be significant code increase if they were to ever have a loss, is to see if they can increase that number. Most
Certainly.
companies can take that from 10. They may be able to get 50. They may even be able to get 100% in some scenarios. That's pretty rare.
Right.
But at least get 25, 50%. And there will be some costs there. But short story. Years ago, when we had our fires in 2017 and 2018, we had a friend, and he wasn't insured with our agency. I won't name the name, but they're a popular one to throw darts at right now. And he had a nice house that they had added on over the years, and a bit makeshift, but it had some charm to it. It was very nice, and he had that 10% of code upgrade. Well, his house was a total loss. He had $900,000 of building coverage. Well, it ended up that he needed about $1 million of code upgrade.
No kidding. Oh, my goodness. That's too bad because, something to consider. The homes that were built before 1994, which was the Northridge earthquake, don't come up to the new earthquake codes. It's significantly different. And that's something they won't waive is earthquake code, especially for things like, it's mostly for masonry, walls and things like that, and shear wall action and things like that. Not that it's going to make your house earthquake proof. It makes it earthquake so you can survive an earthquake. So the wall won't collapse on you right away. You have a chance to escape. But as an example, the old block wall foundation was 8 inches deep by 8 inches wide for a 6-foot high wall. You can see how fast that would go down. The new code is 3 foot deep by 1 foot wide. You're really cutting a knife in, or 3 foot wide by 1 foot deep, depending on the area you have. Okay, a lot of those walls came down. They say you had 500 foot of wall, which is not unusual for most lots. Those foundations are not inexpensive. It's hard to dig, and it's a much different kind of a situation. So that is good to know you have code upgrade, but hopefully it covers it. And depending upon your settlement, sometimes it would just be covered as a rebuild too. But again, it depends upon the insurance company and the insurance policy that you're gonna be with. How long do you think it's going to take to get a building permit? I know we may not even know. I mean, that is a really up in the air because it really is. We're only 2 months into the process. They just finished the environmental cleanup, and our local hero, Rick Caruso, he's really stepping up to the plate. He's offering people temporary housing for free to put on the property. I think it's like a 2-bedroom house with a kitchen and a bath. Which is a great idea for the homeless problem, but that's another story for another day, until you're done rebuilding your house. So you have a place to live, and it's for free. He has all this money that's been donated. And by the way, just so you know, because all these people are donating, that the owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers, I think his name is Walters, he donated $100 million of his own money towards reconstruction costs for the area. That's significant. I mean, that, people talk about billionaires being difficult people, and they don't want to. This really shows some commitment, and $100 million is a lot of money.
It's
I
incredible.
imagine he could still write a couple more big checks too if he really wanted to. Let's see here. You have a couple more. Will the insurance coverage include upgrades to make your home more fire resistant? And would that be considered a code upgrade, and I imagine it also would play into the your underwriters evaluating what the premium for the house might be? Because I know personally there's things that we can do in landscaping that mitigate fire problems. And so 2 of the best things you can do is to make sure you stucco your eaves and put in ember-resistant vents into your attic and your roof line. That's where most of the fires begin, is it gets in and it lights the insulation on fire. And even though your house might be fireproof, once it gets into that thing, it's gone. And we've done that because, again, we do everything on the outside of the house. And that's an easy upgrade anyway. You can put some screens over a lot of those vents. and we cut back plants from the house. There are some that are very popular that literally explode with fire. And just as an example, there's two kinds of fire. A brush fire is not necessarily going to light your house on fire with radiant heat. But if you have a lot of tall pine trees that are burning out of control, it can light anything at a distance of a quarter mile with spontaneous combustion. So some things you cannot get away from. I understand that.
There's been a huge push over the last several years, between the state and the insurance carriers. Cal Fire is a organization that provides a lot of these resources and some of the basics on what you can do to safeguard your home. It's a good thing to look at. Using non-combustible materials, keeping any rubbish away from your home. And in the more at-risk fire areas, yes, you're either needing that to have discounts on your policy, which is nice, or just to get insurance, really. Insurance may not even be available. The market should get better. We are seeing some things coming down the pipeline that's going to get the standard insurance companies to take a lot more of these at-risk homes. But you can be sure that doing a bit of safeguard and brush clearance and using the non-combustible materials, some of the measures that Lyle was talking about, these will make it easier for you to get and less costly for you to get insurance.
Yeah, it's good to know because I know they're doing a lot of more in-home inspections to make sure you're telling the truth about stuff. We live in a fire area where I'm at now, and we were non-renewed several times by some companies. But the reason we were non-renewed is they completely pulled out of California. Fortunately, the company I'm with, because I bundle with a lot of other things, I'm fine. I still am paying the increases. And by the way, it's just so everybody knows, even though you may not have a direct loss from the insurance, from a house or whatnot, your homeowner premiums are still going to be affected because it's spread out amongst everybody who buys a homeowner's policy. So we're all going to pay for it one way or the other. Insurance companies are not in the business of losing money. And once they figure out what their losses are, they'll just spread it back out. It may not be right away, but eventually they will get their money back. You need money to make money, and you need to make some money to be able to pay out these claims. We're talking billions of dollars. That just doesn't grow on trees. Let me ask you a question, and this is close to our final thing. I mean, what is your recourse if you're not satisfied with the insurance settlement or you have a denial of claim? What's your course of action in that?
Yeah, there are a few different things that you can do. The most simple and is a conversation. It's called a formal appeal. That's every insurance company has a process. You need to do it in a timely manner. You need to have your documentation ready, and you may be able to get a better result by starting that process. There may have been something missed. There may be something that you can show them that supports that a higher payment should be made. So that's your first step. If an insurance company is playing hardball, you may have to go to further steps. If an insurance company is acting in bad faith, you're not going to get anywhere without legal consultation. So attorneys can get involved in those areas. There are other ways, including loss of words.
That's okay. Other ways of mitigating the issue, shall we say?
Yeah, there are alternative dispute resolutions.
There we go. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, which is essentially arbitration or mediation.
There we go.
Mediation, you have someone that's between you guys, and you're hashing it out together.
Right.
Arbitration, you have someone that's not too dissimilar from a judge who will make a ruling.
Correct.
And listen to you guys, and it's like a mini trial.
So yes, that's right. It's a lot quicker to get to arbitration mediation, and some policies require that first. Now, as far as insurance paying for stuff, I know in my business, if I have a liability claim or my employees have a workman's compensation claim and they have a dispute, the insurance company will pay for and provide an attorney to defend against whatever it is. That's part of the policy. Is that part of the homeowner's policy, or are they on the hook to hire their own attorney? How does that work?
So there is an independent arbitrator that will be there. They do have the duty to defend you if you're being sued, but if you're suing them,
You're on your own.
you're on your own.
Okay. All right. Well, you know, Richie, this has been really informative. I'm sure there's things we've missed. I don't know what, but I'm sure there are some things we've missed. It's really good to have a source of information and a resource to kind of guide us through all this. It's very confusing. You know, when you've lost everything, your photos, your family, your history, they say that the most important thing is who you are. But, you know, when you lose all those emotional connections, it does affect you, and it does make it any easier. And hopefully we've made it a bit easier for you to navigate the insurance labyrinth, because it really can be that way, especially with all the people that are in the queue trying to get services. I know several insurance agents who are friends of mine I haven't been able to get a hold of for the last 3 weeks. They're just so busy doing claims work that they're just, you just can't contact them. And I don't expect that to end anytime soon. Richie, thank you very much for all your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And again, this is Lyle from Landscape Lies by Landscape Lyle. And if you would all do me a favor, because it helps the algorithm and helps to spread the word, please push the subscribe button. Please push the notification button. They love to see that either on Google or YouTube or wherever else the podcast is published. And until we meet again, thank you very much.